guys, it's me Bo, back once again here on the Film Scene Investigation channel. I hope everyone is doing good. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the 2001 drama Monsters Ball. So after my last review, I was a little bit stuck on exactly what to review next. I have a big long list of films, but I was having a hard time deciding. Well, in light of the recent controversy surrounding rapper Sean Combs in America, I decided to check out his performance in Monsters Ball. Combs, of course, is primarily known as a music mogul, but he also has a limited filmography. With a solid cast and intriguing storyline, I thought now would be a good time to take a deep dive into this 2001 drama. Before we get into it, guys, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, Monsters Ball from 2001 was directed by Mark Foster and written by Milo Adika and Will Rockos. The script was written back in the mid-90s, but went through development hell before finally going into production in 2001. In terms of the plot, Billy Bob Thornton's character Hank was a corrections officer along with his son, Sonny, played by the late Heath Ledger. They lived together in a house in Louisiana, looking after Buck, Hank's father, played by Peter Boyle. The Buck character was this old, retired guy, set in his ways, and a generally miserable person to be around. When we met these characters at the start of the film, they were in the process of executing the death row inmate Lawrence Musgrove, who was played by Sean Combs. I believe Musgrove had killed at least 2 or 3 people, and his execution fell to the hands of Hank and Sonny. Heath Ledger's character, Sonny, was new to the role as a corrections officer and was generally inexperienced. We saw him mess up during a practice session and later lose his composure during Musgrove's final walk. The guy was really struggling, and it was beautifully conveyed by Heath Ledger. Sonny's rookie mistakes caused a major rift between him and his father, Hank. It all came to a head when Hank barged in and confronted his son about his mistakes. Hank lashed out at his son violently and ended up busting his lip. Hank had had enough of Sonny, his lackadaisical attitude, and wanted to punish his son. There was some serious bad blood, and Hank was at boiling point. This would all lead to a very sudden and shocking exit for the Sonny character. He too was at boiling point. He too had been pushed too far, but instead of lashing out, he abruptly took himself out of the equation. Sonny had the gun. He had it pointed at his dad, about to shoot him in the living room, and then Hank stood up and declared that he had always hated his son. The next thing, Sonny took the gun and turned it on himself. It was shocking, and up until that point, the Sonny character had been a focal point to the story. So suddenly I was thinking, where is all this going? Hank had deep resentment for his son. He thought he was weak like his mother. So when Sonny actually died, there was actually a sense of relief on Hank's part. And the death of Sonny was the main cause for Hank to completely reevaluate his life, leaving the force and later buying a gas station. When Lawrence Musgrove was executed, he left behind a son called Tyrell and his wife Letitia, played by Halle Berry. We saw her struggling to look after her son while trying to hold down a waitressing job. Lawrence's imprisonment really took its toll on Letitia, and she was left to pick up the pieces. Hank slowly became involved with Letitia randomly when he stumbled upon her and her dying son on the side of the road. Tyrell would later die in the hospital, leaving a grieving Letitia completely devastated, but Hank was there to support her. There was definitely some reluctance on the part of Hank to get involved, but Letitia needed someone, and he was there. Her husband had just died. Now her kid had been killed. I mean, it was a major tragic blow for Letitia, and you felt bad for the character. A relationship soon blossomed between them, with Hank growing a newfound perspective on life in the wake of his son's death. It was only later on that Hank discovered that Letitia was the wife of Lawrence Musgrove. But once he knew, he decided to keep it in the past, never bring it up, and hoped Letitia never found out. Hank was slowly falling in love, and he didn't want anything to come between them. At the end of the film, we saw Letitia make that discovery while looking through some old photographs. It was then up to her whether she was going to confront Hank about it or leave it in the past. You know, I must say, I really liked the ending of this movie. It was somewhat upbeat, yet had this undertone of sadness, with Letitia knowing Hank's past but deciding never to bring it up. I mean, when she initially found out that Hank, her new lover, had been involved with her husband's execution, I mean, she was completely outraged. And yeah, I mean, when you think about it, Letitia had every right to feel anger towards Hank for keeping these things a secret. But I really did like that end scene with the two sitting outside at night watching the stars. Hank offered her some chocolate ice cream, and in that moment you thought that Letitia was going to, spill the beans and confront Hank about all these secrets. But she took the high road. Her character had chosen to embrace this new life she had, forget her past, just like Hank had done. And that's what she did. So, let's talk about the infamous sex scene between Hank and Letitia that happens in this film. I'll give you a bit of backstory here. So, up until recently, I had never seen this film before, but that's not to say that I wasn't fully aware of this film. And more specifically, yes, I was very familiar with this sex scene between Halle Berry and Billy Bob Thornton. I mean, back in my school days, this video was floating around on people's phones, and this sex scene, this clip was very big to millennials back in the early 2000s. And, a lot of that obviously was down to the completely naked Halle Berry gyrating all over the place. I mean, it was an intense sexual encounter between the two characters, and the director definitely brought a sense of realism to the scene. At times, yes, it did feel like a borderline softcore porno, but yeah, I'm not complaining. And in terms of performances, I have to say, all round, I thought everyone did a great job and everyone was very convincing in their roles. From the likes of Heath Ledger to Peter Boyle, it was a solid group of talented actors who clearly admired the material. Halle Berry, of course, went on to win an Oscar for her portrayal in Monsters Ball. But I have to ask, was she Oscar worthy? You know, I thought about this and I would absolutely say that she was deserving of an Oscar nomination. Berry showcased her acting skills in this very demanding role and I thought she did a great job. I will admit though, I didn't think it was anything outstanding, but then again, maybe I went into this with too high expectations given I already knew that she won the Oscar for this movie. Either way, nobody can deny her amazing on-screen chemistry with actor Billy Bob Thornton, which was a major highlight for this film. I've said it before and I'll say it again. When you have a story that's revolving around two central figures, the right pairing is crucial for everything to work. And in the case of Monsters Ball, the pairing of Halle Berry and Billy Bob Thornton, well, it worked wonders. So credit to the casting director for their efforts. Let's take a moment now to discuss the performance of Sean Puff Daddy Combs, who of course played Lawrence Musgrove in the movie. Taking a step back and simply judging Combs on his acting ability, I'll admit, I thought he did a good job. It wasn't a huge part, but still, it was significant, and I thought Sean Combs delivered a somewhat somber and muted performance. You know, I've always had a pretty low opinion of Sean Combs. Never really been a fan of his music, and yeah, not that surprised hearing all the debauchery and stuff that he's been getting up to behind closed doors. But yeah, going into this film, I didn't know what to expect too much, but yeah, my expectations were pretty low. I guess passable would be a good choice of words to describe his performance. With his character being stuck in prison awaiting execution, I could not help but think about Combs' real life imprisonment. It was visually striking to see Combs behind bars given his real life arrest by the FBI. And taking into account what we know now about Sean Combs and his private sadistic lifestyle, I have to ask, was it really a stretch for Combs to play a sick and twisted individual like Lawrence Musgrove? No, not really. Without sounding too coy, I wouldn't be surprised if Combs felt at home with a character like Lawrence Musgrove. Yeah, it's just interesting to see how over time people's opinions and thoughts change, and how people change, sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. And in some ways you can say that we are now seeing art imitating life. Before we get into dislikes, I have to give some credit to the awesome soundtrack that we heard by musicians Ash and Spencer. The music was very ethereal and dark, a perfect blend for the visual imagery that was provided by cinematographer Roberto Schaefer. The music was highly produced, and really conjured up that kind of bleak, dark emotion that the film was trying to convey. Now, I'm not too familiar with Ash and Spencer, these musicians, but I've read that they have provided other soundtracks, so I'll definitely be looking into their work. And so, dislikes for Monsters Ball 2001. My main dislike for the movie would have to be the lack of Heath Ledger. His character, Sonny, only featured during the first half of the film before he was killed off suddenly. You know, Ledger gave a strong performance with the limited screen time that he had. Very captivating and very memorable. You know, he left you wanting more, and it's a shame that it just wasn't a bigger role. Now, from what I read online, originally the actor Wes Bentley was cast but pulled out at the last minute, leaving Ledger to step in. Even with it being a small role, I have to say that Ledger over-delivered. Honestly, like, it could have been his movie if the character had just lived longer. Not to take away how good and intriguing and interesting this film is, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of meat on that bone when it comes to the Sonny character, and it's a shame that things were not more developed with him. Another dislike I have for the film would be the muddled message that the movie was trying to make. So, Monsters Ball featured this interracial relationship between Hank and Letitia. Hank was from this very racist background who, you know, made their feelings quite known to the local community. So it was supposed to be this significant aspect of the story, having this racist man change his ways and fall in love with a black woman. I totally get what they were going for, but I just didn't think that the message was clear enough from the audience's perspective. There should have been more scenes establishing Hank's racist background, so as to really, you know, hit home that point they were trying to make. What we got was a few racist outbursts, but I don't believe it went far enough. I mean, Hank was not a fully fledged neo-Nazi. You know, he didn't have hate in his heart. Well, besides for his son, of course. For the most part, Hank seemed like an okay guy. So when he started dating Letitia, it really wasn't that hard to believe. Monsters Ball was a poignant and emotional roller coaster that deserves all the praise it gets. It was a film about two people finding each other and helping one another during their horrific situations. If you haven't seen this one yet, take my advice and definitely check it out. It's worth your time, and yeah, you know, sadly they just don't make movies like this anymore. If you guys have seen it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Sean Combs, I mean, did you guys like him in this film? Should he have done more films? I mean, this was probably one of the very few he did, so I guess he wasn't really much into acting. Nevertheless, that was the review today, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. I will be back next week. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course,